What is going on, everybody? Tyler Brandt back here with another video. Welcome back to the channel. Another Sunday, another great day of NFL football that will conclude with a Sunday night football matchup. The 1-0 New England Patriots, the good guys, traveling to Seattle to take on Russell Wilson and his Seattle Seahawks. A primetime fight on Sunday Night Football, and we're going to break down all of it right now. So buckle up and let's get into it. First things first, headed into this game on the New England Patriots side of things, and that's just a quick note of this game being more of a test than obviously Miami. I know it's kind of obvious, but Miami was fun. The offense was fun to watch. It was promising. The Patriots aren't going to be a complete mess, and now we know that. But this game against Seattle is a statement game. If they go into this game, and even if they lose respectably in this game, and it's a close competitive game the whole way, and the Patriots are able to do things on offense and contain Russell Wilson, this is still an opportunity for the Patriots to make a statement in the AFC and the rest of the NFL. With that being said, let's start with the Seahawks offense and what makes them so gosh darn good. And of course, that starts with their all-world superstar quarterback. Bill Belichick said this week that he is number one, pretty much 1A. Nobody does what he can do in this league, and he is exactly right. So Russell Wilson, we know how good he is. Last week against the Atlanta Falcons in their building, he had about as perfect of a game as you could possibly ask for. He was 31 of 35, 322 yards, which is good for 9.2 yards per completion. He threw 4 touchdowns. He didn't throw an interception. He had a 143 passer rating and 29 rushing yards to go along with it. So again, he really could do no wrong. It was a pretty high-scoring affair, but he was just guns blazing week one. All things, let it loose and let's go. Seattle actually only ran the ball if you take away Russell Wilson's 3 attempts or scrambles that he had. If you take those away, Seattle only ran the ball 17 times, which, compared to history over the last couple of years, that's not Seattle's game. They've been one of the heaviest run teams in the NFL. But there seems to be this idea or this sort of, it's let Russ cook. That's been the quote that's been floating around the Seattle fan base and around the team. And that's just to take the chains off, let the guy go out there and be the astronomically great quarterback he is, and just let him rip the ball. Could Seattle get away with doing that? Absolutely. They could go Chiefs style, just pedal to the metal and go. But Pete Carroll made a point of it that he wants to get the ball in the hands of his running backs more, and he doesn't like a game plan where the running backs are on the back burner. Especially going into this matchup with New England, Russ will be able to move the ball down the field because of how good he is, even against the Patriots' great secondary. But why would you take extra shots at the secondary when you have a stable of running backs that are good and very good at running the ball, and they do so, again, very well? The more I think about it, I mean, listen, if Pete Carroll wants to take the ball out of Russell Wilson's hands, he's more than welcome to, and I'm all for it. While I think Seattle, again, does have a very good run game, and I love the Patriots secondary, Russell Wilson is just, he's matchup proof. So eventually they're going to find ways to get the ball into the hands of their playmaker, and it starts with Russ. So if you want to take the ball out of his hand and, you know, use the running game and pound the rock, which the Patriots were pretty good against Miami last week in that category, then all systems go. That's fine by me. Take the ball out of your superstar's hand and just pound the rock. I'm all for it. Although the Patriots do have an elite secondary, they have had issues with scrambling quarterbacks as of late. Lamar Jackson was very good against them, was able to really do almost whatever he wanted against New England. We know Deshaun Watson has given Bill Belichick fits offensively in the past. This week, Russell Wilson, again, he's played New England pretty well, 2-1 in his career. They get him again in round 4 of this rivalry, we'll call it, and he's had no problem putting up points when he needed to. You know, they won the game on Sunday Night Football in 2016. The Super Bowl, he had a very good game. New England, again, just really made the one play, Malcolm Butler at the goal line. And even in 2012, Russ won 24-23. So he's been able to put up enough points and move the ball against New England historically. This week, the Patriots called up Miles Bryant, the kid from Washington. They called him up on the practice squad, or from the practice squad, to mimic the running ability of Russell Wilson. So you can first and foremost see that Bill Belichick's real emphasis this week is keeping Russell Wilson contained in the pocket, because although he can beat you from in the pocket and scrambling, he is very deadly when he gets out of the pocket, especially to his strong side, and that's when he makes the real magic happen. He's probably the best quarterback out of the pocket, scrambling, kind of everything falling apart on the move in the NFL. So Bill Belichick, first and foremost, his primary emphasis this week, I think, is containing Russell Wilson, keeping him in the pocket, and getting guys to him to disrupt what he can do. Let's talk now about some of the matchups. Now, the Seattle Seahawks wide receivers, also two guys primarily that are absolutely no slouch. DK Metcalf, huge specimen of a wide receiver, primarily a straight line burner, down the field kind of guy. And the complement, the wide receiver one, if you'll call him that, the guy that has the best relationship as a pass catcher with Russell Wilson, that of course is Tyler Lockett, who again complements DK Metcalf as DK's burning guys down the field. A guy like Tyler Lockett is a crossing routes guy, kind of works in and out, can jump into the slot, do a couple things that way. So it's a nice complement they have. And of course, they have a pretty decent tight end room who I expect to see a good chunk of in this game. Will Dissly was somebody that was putting together a good season before he got hurt, but he is back and healthy. And of course, they signed Greg Olsen in the offseason. So Olsen, a crafty, very smart veteran who will find holes in the zone and find ways to get open. And Dissly also put together a nice season, again, before he got hurt. In terms of how New England matches up with these guys, I think the tight end group will be relatively, locked down by Juwan Williams, who did a great job on Mike Gesicki. And I think he'll have an opportunity again to come into the game. Now, Greg Olsen, maybe not as athletic as Gesicki because of his age, but Greg Olsen, again, a smart, crafty veteran, will figure out ways to get open. But I think Juwan Williams will have another opportunity here to cover tight ends and to get himself into the game. As far as the wide receivers, I'm very curious to see who's on who and how they cover who. If they put a guy like John Jones on Tyler Lockett and follow him, wherever he goes on the field, if he goes into the middle of the field as a slot kind of guy, maybe have safety help there and just have Gilmore on DK on an island, take him out of the game. I'm very curious to see what they do. DK doesn't really go all over the formation. I know that for sure. So I'm curious to see if they'll leave Gilmore on him or if Gilmore will bounce all over the defense. I'm just curious where he goes and who he is assigned to. As far as keeping Russell Wilson contained, it is going to be a very big job for Winovich, for Lawrence Guy, for Adam Butler, for Dietrich Wise. As far as they are going to be responsible for stopping the run, keeping them contained and keeping him in the pocket, even some of the defensive backs that might come in and help. And beyond that, I think a name to watch out for, or a couple names to watch out for, Kyle Duggar coming in maybe as a spy, but also Adrian Phillips, who had a pretty good week last week, who has experience spying quarterback and spying athletic quarterback. So I think those are two names from the safety position to definitely watch out for this week. Terrence Brooks will probably, again, be in the game with Juwan Williams, helping him cover tight ends. But in terms of a spy or keeping Russell Wilson contained or being responsible, I think that'll be Duggar and a lot of Adrian Phillips this week. So, before we go to the offense, the keys for the Patriots defense wrapped in a nice bow for you. The Patriots have to contain Russell Wilson, make him uncomfortable, keep him in the pocket, and make him make tough throws from the pocket without extending the play. Beyond that, I think they do have plus matchups for the defensive backs. I think they're all a little bit better than Seattle's wide receiving group. Russ makes them all better, so I do think that balances things out a lot. But beyond that, the Seattle Seahawks have a very average offensive line outside of really Dwayne Brown. So if New England's running defense kind of steps up to the way they were against Miami, another very average offensive line, I think they'll be able to compete, and I don't think the Seahawks will just stack a bunch of points up. So I think if you get a consistent effort in the run game, you contain Russ, you stop him from expanding plays and making huge plays down the field, the Patriots defense will be in this game, and it'll be another classic matchup between these two teams. For the Patriots offense, now week 2 with Cam Newton and company under center, and this is going to be a very interesting take and to watch them take on this Seattle team in week 2. Now, Seattle does have a few superstars, Bobby Wagner, Jamal Adams. KJ Wright is a very good linebacker to complement Bobby Wagner, but outside of the three of them, they're largely an average defense. And I know that maybe not everybody agrees with that, but they are largely an average defense, especially in terms of Pro Football Focus. They're a middle-of-the-road defense outside of those superstar guys. And I think New England will be able to exploit that. I don't think it's a coincidence that Matt Ryan threw for 450 yards and that Julio Jones had 150 yards. Now, are the Patriots the Atlanta Falcons offensively? Absolutely not. They're not going to do anything or put anything up like that, but they will be able to move the ball against the Seattle defense. From my understanding, the Seattle defensive line and that defense is very aggressive against the run. They're going to use those superstars down in the box to try to make bigger plays against the run and get Cam Newton and the Patriots into third and longs where Cam is going to have to throw the ball. I think in terms of running the ball, New England will change it up a little bit. I think they'll utilize different sort of outside runs and try to use the aggressiveness of the Seattle defense in their favor. Maybe getting running backs cutback lanes, things like that, certain different ways that they can get their running backs a little bit more of maybe a hesitation or getting outside because they don't have a primary edge setter, although Jamal Adams and Bobby Wagner can pretty much do everything. So I think they're going to find creative new ways to use Seattle's aggressiveness on the defensive line to help New England runners. I think New England using zone reads, outside runs, things like that to try to throw bodies in front of Jamal Adams and Bobby Wagner will also help New England tenfold in moving the ball. I would also like to see, for me personally, more of a traditional running game too. Over guard, over center, that interior of the Patriots offensive line is the strength of that offensive line, really. So I would also like to see Tooney and company down there getting involved in the run game with Bobby Wagner, Jamal Adams, and pushing the pile, getting running back some over guard, over center opportunities, which we saw, again, in Miami in week 1. It worked very well. So I think they'll incorporate a lot of that also with some zone replays, some outside runs to throw bodies in front of Wagner and Jamal Adams, and, you know, you make them use their brains. They're two very smart players. Make them use their brains and use their football IQ to get to the runner and use their aggressiveness against them. For the Patriots passing game this week, the Seattle Seahawks, they operate out of a base 4-3, and they play mostly a cover 3. At least they have in recent memory, going back over the years of the Legion of Boom all the way until recently where they acquired Jamal Adams, which may change the way they play. Can they change it in the first 2 weeks of the NFL season? That remains to be seen. It's something to watch as the season goes on if you're following the Seahawks. But Matt Ryan and that offense was obviously able to take advantage of a secondary that is not great. So if they're going to be running a base cover 3 against New England, that's going to leave room for the tight ends to work, the running backs to work, and the slot receivers to work. So I would expect a big game from Jules, really getting in there, a better game. He dropped the ball last week against Miami. The running backs, maybe a little bit more James White in the fold this week, and a little bit of Devin Asiasi action would also be nice as a receiver. Again, Ryan Izzo was really the only thing that popped for New England in week 1 against Miami. Even looking back in history in these matchups these teams have played in recent memory, in the Super Bowl, Shane Vereen caught 11 catches in that base cover 3. Jules, 7 catches in the 2016 game. Danny Woodhead, we're going all the way back to 2012. Danny Woodhead, 5 catches for him in that game in Seattle back in 2012. So New England, granted that's with Brady, but New England focused on getting the ball to the running backs, to the slot receivers, to the tight ends. Of course, Gronk was there for all those games. So I think it shouldn't stray too far up from a passing circumstance. It shouldn't change too much of what they're going to do over history and into this week's game if Seattle's peddling out a base 4-3, a base cover 3 defense. I would like to see Cam Newton throw the ball a little bit more this week, maybe utilizing some of that play action into the passing game instead of quarterback options. So I would like to see him become more of a passer. I think Seattle's aggression is going to make him have to throw the ball a little bit more and put the ball where it needs to be. Not only do I want to see him evolve as a passer and put some consistent games out there, but from a completion percentage point, I want that. But also to keep his body, again, in the video earlier this week, to keep his body in check. It's a 16-game grind. Again, I don't want him running 15, 16, 17 times a game. So if Seattle can make him stay there and throw the ball, utilize some play action, get some guys open through play action, I would be very intrigued and very happy to see that from Cam Newton in week 2. My matchups to watch in the week 2 Sunday night football game against Seattle. First, I want to see how they defend Tyler Lockett. I want to see what defenders on him the most, whether it's John Jones and safety help and getting guys in the middle of the field watching his crossing routes, how if they stick Gilmore on him for any length of time. I'm very interested and intrigued to see how they defend Tyler Lockett this week. It's just something I'm going to have my eye on. Another matchup that I'm interested in is the Patriots wide receiver group against a weak Seattle secondary. Jamal is elite, is a superstar, but beyond that, that secondary is largely average. The Patriots should be able to beat some of the Seattle secondary some of the time. That will keep the rest of that Seattle group honest. If they can't get separation, then you already know Pete Carroll's going to stack the box. He has a tendency to do that, to try to make aggressive plays on the run. So if you can get the ball behind some of these cornerbacks, take Jamal Adams out of the box, that's one less elite defensive player that's coming after your running backs and playing downhill towards your quarterback. So I would like to see N'Keal Harry get more involved in the passing game. Maybe Damiere Byrd can get behind some of these defensive backs for Seattle. That is also another matchup I am looking forward to seeing. Finally, one of the last things we just talked about, I want to see more James White, Devin Asiasi against his cover 3 defense. I really want to see Asiasi get involved in the game, and James White is Mr. Reliable. I know Cam's not, super checked down to his running back like a guy like Brady was, but it would be nice to see everybody getting involved and them exploiting a matchup that they have in recent memory against the Seattle Seahawks. So finally, my prediction, breaking this all down after all this, putting a bow on this game. I think these two teams are kind of on the same level in terms of talent for the most part. I think both teams have a few elite defensive players on the defense. Maybe Seattle's offense is a little bit better in some spots, but when you break this whole thing down, Seattle's offensive line isn't fantastic. They do have a very good receiving group. New England is kind of the opposite. They have a very good offensive line and a pretty average receiving group. I think they're not as far talent gap-wise as everybody makes them out to be. With that being said, when the Patriots of old would play games with teams that are similar talent-wise, there was the Brady effect, where, if the game's on the line and it's a close game, Brady's going to go down the field and do what has to be done. He's going to nitpick every single detail that'll just give the Patriots the edge. And I love Cam, and I love what the offense did week 1. But to me, on the other side of the ball, Russell Wilson is now that guy. He's one of those guys where the talent gap is the same, possibly, and I think it is, but Russell Wilson just makes his team a little bit better when it's crunch time. He's the nitpicking guy. He's the guy where if you need to go down and get a score, he's the guy that's going to do that for you, and you're pretty much sure of that a lot of the time. So for that reason, I just have to go with Russ. I mean, putting my Patriot love aside, I got to take, in an evenly matched kind of team, you got to take the team with a superstar, all-world quarterback, and I think that Russell Wilson is going to be the difference in this game. Another footnote to that, too, Cam Newton being 2-6 versus Seattle doesn't really bode well. I mean, I hope that changes in a new team, but it's a number that definitely looms over watching this game. And again, I think Russ is just going to be a little bit better. He's just a different breed. He's a different kind of quarterback. However, I do think it is going to be another classic installment of this new kind of rivalry that's breeded over the last 7-8 years. They don't play very often, but every time they do play, it is an absolute classic game. So I think that is going to continue, and I think this is going to be another classic installment in that series. But I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks in this game 24-21. They beat New England by a field goal, and field goal kicking, if you follow the channel, is something that is going to drive me up the goddamn wall because I just don't know where field goal kicking is coming from for New England. So I think this could be a game that really hurts them. Once again, Seattle 24, New England 21. If you're betting, the New England line is +4. They're an underdog in the regular season for the first time, I think, in 64 games. That's an NFL record. So again, they are +4. I would take New England with the points. I think it's going to be a very close game, but I think Seattle is going to win, but New England sneaks into the spread. So if you're betting, that's my opinion there. But again, the final score of this game, Seattle 24, New England 21. That is going to do it for this Week 2 preview of the Seattle Seahawks hosting the New England Patriots. Both teams 1-0 headed into this Sunday night football battle. Leave your score predictions down below. What do you think is going to happen in this game? Leave it all down below. Don't be afraid to just let it rip in the comments. I'd love to know what every single one of you guys are thinking. Beyond that, if you want to get at me on social media, I am on Twitter at TheTylerBrand, on Instagram at TalkingPats. Get at me there if you want to chop it up about football. Again, be happy to talk to you there too, especially during the game. I live tweet all the games, and that's not going to change for Sunday Night Football. So follow me on Twitter for that. Until next time, once again, I am Tyler Brandt. Enjoy Sunday Night Football. I'll see you on the post-game show. Let's go, Pats. Best of luck to this team. Stay safe, be good, and I'll catch you on the next video.